Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Work on Workplace Relations with Aastha. That's the live show every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. I meet you live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, all the three platforms. And it is such a pleasure to be able to connect with everybody, pick up some or the other aspect about workplace challenges, which all boil down to workplace relationships, and then share and talk about the same. Yeah. So looking forward for some of you to join in. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube all together. So this show, Work on Workplace Relations with Aastha, has been specifically, designed with the aim to talk about workplace challenges, right? And to get a little deeper into what is at the core, what is at the source of those challenges. Whether you are a leader and you talk about relationships with your boss, talk about relations with your peers, with your subordinates, with your partners, if it's any other stakeholder, it could be your vendors, it could be your clients, investors. How are those relationships responsible, or how do they impact your journey, and how do they impact you as an individual? So that's what we intend to talk about. So a very warm welcome for those of you who've joined in live. Would love to hear from you as we talk. My request would be, please go ahead, drop in a hi so that I know who's here live, and also share whatever is coming to your mind. If there's anything that comes to your mind, there is an experience that you want to share, there's a question that's there, please feel free to drop it in the comment box. Great. So today we are going to talk about something which is very, very common, which is very, very critical, which is very, I would say it's much talked about. However, it's an endless topic, the best employee. Who is the most desired employee? What are the characteristics? What are the attributes of the most desired employee that you would want to have? And every time that we talk about the best employee is someone who is, every person, every leader, every business owner would have his or her own preferences. If you look at the hiring that happens in the organizations, typically you would want maybe somebody who's very, very highly qualified, or somebody who's got, amazing experience, or you would want somebody who's got a great personality, somebody who's a people's person who interacts really well, somebody who's got amazing communication skills, right? Somebody who is maybe willing to be on his toes, who's out there doing it just the way you want. Whatever you say is done, obeyed, completed to the T, right? And you feel, wow, this is the employee. Somebody who has your back completely, once I've told him it's done, it's done. So depending upon whatever your requirements are, your needs are, and you want, or you think that's how you decide who a good employee, a best employee for you would be, right? Now, today I want to talk about, I want to get a little deeper, and I really want to question all these criteria, all these attributes that you designate or you think are very, very important for an employee to be really great. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, when you talk about these qualifications, these experiences, whether he's an out of box thinker or not, it, when the going gets tough, when the situation is not as pleasant, when there are a lot of challenges coming in, what happens in those moments? What happens when every day, you talk about all these terms that you talk about, everyday situations, which would be maybe your politics, there are, things like favoritism that are plaguing the organizations. There are things like, strained relationships. How does that individual deal with these everyday things? How does he go about attending to the everyday situations in the organization? Yeah. So while he is a good performer, he's a great performer, is that enough? Is that all? Or there is more to it? Yeah. Or do you really need to focus or change the hiring criteria, the process of hiring? Does that work? Is it possible? So what really needs to go into characterizing a great employee, the kind that would be really, really forwarding for an organization, is what we are going to talk about today. And we will also get into or delve deeper into each of these things, whether hiring better is the solution, whether it is about looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 certain attributes. What are those attributes? What does, what makes the difference, the real difference? So let's talk about all of that. Yeah. So I think one question that, I have heard, it has been so often asked, and one of the challenges that I've heard from so many leaders, more particularly in the COVID times, is that how do you employees to work to the best of their potential? They are feeling very low. There is a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of challenges. The whole environment is such, and in these times, to keep them motivated, to get them to work to the best of their potential, the same way that they were doing pre-COVID maybe, is difficult. Now, while COVID has been, one of events, but my question is, why characterize it as a one-off event? Okay, this is something I would say COVID has only highlighted certain things which were existing even before, but things that we were just doing away with. Now they are pinching even more. Yeah. So if an employee is not able to manage himself when the situation is not as pleasant, when the external or internal environment is not conducive, थोड़ी सी उथल पुथल हुई, थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे हुआ, and the person is, it takes its toll on him or her. How do you think that can be addressed? Do you think it is important enough to be addressed? Do you think it makes a difference? Now, here is somebody who's amazingly qualified, who's got great experience, and he's not able to manage himself, right? He goes topsy-turvy the moment there is a challenge. He's not able to manage himself well. To my mind, the most important thing when we're talking about an organizational or workplace context for any employee, for anybody in the team, is the capability to manage himself. Somebody who knows himself, who understands his strengths, who understands his weaknesses, who knows what are the beliefs, what are those patterns that are running me, that are governing me. जो अपने आप को समझता हो, who's aware of himself. Yeah. And when I say aware of himself, understands himself, knows himself, it is very, very important to be able to deal with these so-called challenging situations. Because while we talk about the external environment not being conducive, COVID aa gaya hai, organization अच्छे से function नहीं कर रही है, business is not happening, targets नहीं हो रहे हैं, there is a shift or a change in the leadership that is impacting. So we talk about every attribute outside in the external environment. But what happens as a result of that? That has an impact on the internal environment of that employee. And when I say internal environment, it is that emotion, the feeling, and as a result, the actions and behaviors of that employee. Whether he's able to stay calm, manage himself, and steer himself through those situations, or it becomes very, very difficult for him. You know, he gets disturbed, he gets distracted, he gets frustrated, upset, scared, guilty, whatever those emotions are. Right? So while the experience, the qualifications, whatever is the need of the job, those attributes are important. But I'd say, what if you really want to talk about an employee as an asset, somebody who you invest in, and then he's an asset, and who you would want, who you look at as a long-term investment, and somebody who you would want should stay with you, then this is what it is. This is what it is, because skills can be acquired. Right? You could always, if the attitude is right, if that willingness to work on himself or herself is there, if he's willing to look at what drives him, what stops him, what holds him back to give his best, if the person is willing to do that, if he's willing to learn, if he's willing to grow, if he's willing to look at his mindset and really, work on it and turn around things for himself and the team and organization, then that's the employee you're looking for. How do you do that? Of course, we come to that. The question is that it's not just about the massive challenges which shake everybody, something like COVID. It is also about the everyday stuff. People complain of, my boss is toxic. The environment is very toxic. There is so much pressure that my leader passes on to me. There is favoritism. He just favors my teammates, this XYZ, right? I just don't feel motivated to work. Now, that's where you have a choice. I'm not talking about just pushing aside what you feel, what you want, pushing aside all your emotions. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying keeping your needs as a priority, yet being able to see where people are coming from. And in this moment, what do I want to do? Even if you want to change something, go ahead, do that. If you can really change anything around. If you cannot, you want to accept it, go ahead, accept it. And if you think change is not possible, you cannot accept it, this is absolutely not possible for me, then are you willing to just move ahead? That's what happens with a lot of people, a lot of employees who are not able to take it, who say, no, this doesn't work for me, they make a move. But either ways, somebody who's balanced, who's willing to work on himself so that he's able to give in his or her 100%, right? Whether there is a massive challenge or whether it is the everyday situations, who doesn't get hassled by, this is not happening, this is not working, my boss is such, my teammate is such, the vendor is such, the client is such, things are not happening my way, there's no promotion, this is not there. Work your way out. Right? Now, does that mean that you hire a certain kind of people? When you're getting people on board, when you're getting your team in place, does it mean you don't look for qualifications, experience, and all of that, and you look for all these things? Well, it's practically not possible. Because if you look at the hiring process, it's a very, while you may have a system there, but it's a very, if I may use the term, superficial process. Because in that limited time, even if it is 4 rounds of interviews, you may try to do your best. And organizations definitely do. It is an investment in terms of your time, money, effort. So yet in those 1, 2, 3, 4 interactions, you cannot really make out the make of that person, the build up of that person. What is he really up to, whether he's willing to work or not, because the people, they portray their best. Obviously everybody would do, it's their moment to give in their best, they do that. So if you ask me, obviously doing something at hiring, at the level of hiring, I think is difficult. And that is where you bring in more objective criteria, like what are the qualifications, how many years of experience do you have, how have you handled situations of crisis, have you come out of them, how have you gotten along with your people around. But those are all very, very superficial, I would still say. Now, if you cannot do much at the level of hiring, getting in people, that's where two things are very, very important. The first is the culture of your organization, right? How much importance and priority you attach to this aspect of the employees, which means once they have been hired, they start working, they give in their best, or they may not give in their best. Now you realize that this is the reality. Over time, you realize this is working, this is not working, and you make a choice. The certain things that you may want to compromise on, but you think by and large, he's serving this purpose. So you make a choice. That is always going to be in sync with the culture. And culture means what? आपकी organization किस चीज को prioritize करती है. For me, it is only about numbers. My organization, targets होने चाहिए, business होना चाहिए, clients, more clients, increase the numbers, more channel partners. If that's the agenda, you may not even bother then. How is the employee managing himself? How is he dealing with pressure? He may be creating toxicity. Numbers are happening. That comes from the culture, that flows from top to the bottom. But if the priority for you is, no, I want my clients to be super happy, I want to give them an amazing service, for which I want the environment, my internal customers to be super happy, which means I want the whole environment to be really enriching, forwarding for people who are working here. And therefore, as an organization, we do not compromise on this. That's where you will attach a lot of importance to all of these aspects. How does the employee manage himself? And if he's not capable of doing it, if he doesn't have the muscle to do it, if he doesn't have the skill set to do it, then you would invest in nurturing him. So while you cannot do much at the level of hiring, so only so much that you can really look at, but once the employee is in, can you really prioritize nurturing, nourishing that employee? Quite often, organizations miss out on that aspect. And it's like such a big loop. There is competition, so you want to focus on numbers. If you don't focus on numbers, you'll be left behind. And therefore, the whole idea is I want people who can chase numbers, who are go-getters, who've had track record of doing amazingly well at sales, who are people pleasers, a lot of these things are there. And in this process, running, chasing, somewhere organizations fail, or I would say miss out on really looking at these aspects. How's the well-being? What's the health of the emotional health, the mental health of the employees? How's the environment? How's it going, right? And who really makes that environment? Who really does that? It's each employee. If I talk about every unit, every employee has his or her contribution to it. So when the organization culturally focuses on this, then they would really focus on what does every employee bring to the table. And if there is somebody who's the odd one out, who's spoiling it, then they're not going to tolerate. And we know of organizations who are very, very particular about that. Very few in number, right? Because somewhere they are, you just get so carried away that you feel either I can prioritize this or this. It's not a matter of this or this. It's about coexisting. The organization does exist for a purpose to solve a problem. And therefore, yes, the business is an important part. It's there to make that money. That's the money which feeds everybody. But at the same time, this is equally important, because this, which is the employee health, what is the employee bringing to the table? What is he bringing to the workplace environment, to the workplace health? This is impacting the business also. Organizations think, if I ignore this part, what is the employee doing? What is he bringing to the table? It is okay. Chalta hai, doesn't matter. What they don't realize is there is so much of bandwidth that goes into correcting this. So much of bandwidth, I would say double the effort, because the productivity goes down. If there is chaos, if the environment is such where people don't feel nurtured, where they feel low, whether it is between a boss and the team member, whether it is between two team members, whether it's with some client, if things are not working out well, and if the employee is not able to manage himself, he gets carried away, he's sulking, he doesn't have the space where he can walk up and speak to somebody, and he's struggling within, what do you think is going to be the impact? You're investing on that employee, right? Your work also suffers. Here, your effort, your investment suffers, and you think, okay, chalta hai, this is how it functions. I don't have the time to really work on this employee. What the organization doesn't realize is that if you make that effort, it may mean extra hours, extra effort, but that's not extra, that's required. It's like, how it's so much a part of the foundation. It must be a part of the foundation. So if the organizations really have to get out of the survival mode and want to thrive, where they feel, wow, where every employee who walks in is like, wow, this is where I want to work, then you better have to focus on employees, creating employees, I would say. Not everybody who's hired and he walks into the organization maybe doing well on these parameters, but it's fine as long as that's a priority for you and you give them a chance to work on themselves. You look at interventions which go deep enough and help or support those employees to work on themselves. And then you realize that despite this effort of the organization, there is somebody who's just not doing it. You can make your choice. But then there are others who, just in the lack of all of this, are not able to perform. And then you come to those criteria, oh, he doesn't have good experience, or he's not got as much exposure, he's not great. You kind of disqualify people. So to sum it up, to just reiterate, I think an employee who is going to be a best employee, if I may use the word best employee, or rather I would say an employee who's the most desired employee, I would say is somebody who is willing to learn about himself, who knows himself, and who's willing to bring in that awareness to work on himself, so that he can not only forward himself, but forward his team, his organization. And for that, somewhere organizations need to take that onus. They are anyway spending so much time, effort into things they think are getting results, or things which are intended towards forwarding employees. But the question is it really happening? The need is to get a little deeper. And since it's not possible to gauge these attributes at the time of hiring, therefore, can the organizations take the onus that yes, as long as the basics are in place, the skill set, basic skill set that is required, the attitude that is required, as long as that is in place, can I take the onus of nurturing these employees? And that comes from where? The culture of the organization. So I think establishing a very strong culture is the need of the hour. And somewhere organizations need to reflect upon that. What is the current culture? What is the impact it has? Is it really working, not working? These are things that need to be discussed upon, and not just discussed upon, implemented upon. What action is going to be taken in that direction is very, very critical. It could be starting with little actions, but it could be formal professional interventions, coaching interventions, or it could be ensuring strong leadership in those small units also, which is even small teams, ensuring so many times in the absence of strong leadership, the team suffers. They form beliefs which are absolutely big deterrents to the health of the team and the organization. So it is high time that organizations prioritize this, and instead of accepting or discarding employees purely on the basis of, oh, he's done so much business, oh, he's had a track record of this, oh, he's qualified, he's done his MBA from so-and-so, he's an Ivy League. You need to just change the perspective. And I think that is going to turn around. It's going to be a game changer. I strongly feel that. And I say this because of my experience. I've been in the corporate. I know what has always been holding me back. And even as a leader, I know what has it taken for me to build those relationships with my subordinates or my peers, and what has kind of stood in between, what has helped us sail through, what has been challenging. So yeah, that's what I feel. That's my perspective. Anything that you want to add on basis your experience? What are your thoughts on this? I would love to hear that. It'll be an enriching experience for me. It's always amazing to hear more perspectives. So please go ahead and share with me. I see some of you are live with me. Thank you for staying on. Thank you for joining in. I hope you got some value from this. If you did, please write to me, drop in a message. And yes, that's it for today. Please join in every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. It's called Work on Workplace Relations with Aastha. So let's talk about it. If there's any specific topic, any specific challenge, issue that you want to talk about, please let me know. We can always pick that up and talk about it. And yes, also visit my YouTube channel. And if you think it's valuable, you find value there, then go ahead and subscribe. There is content published there every day. A lot of things which I think will be beneficial both in your personal and professional space. So yeah, that's about it. And I hope you found it meaningful. So once again, thank you so much for joining in, for watching. Would love to hear from you. Take care. Have a great week ahead, an action-packed week ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.